Good morning, and thank you so much for providing such a warm welcome to us. We feel very much at home. Paul and Sarah have given an overview of the project in its broadest sense, and Sarah has drilled down somewhat into the programmatic descriptions in each country. But for me, this is the most exciting bit. We actually get to hear from our friends and family in countries and really dig into some of those aspects that the intricacies and the nuance of the programmes that we have. We've been extremely fortunate and honoured to break bread with our friends in all of our countries, often accompanied by our friends Pauline and Siobhan from early years. We've gotten to sit around tables, sometimes late into the night, discussing our hopes and dreams and the challenges that we will face. I think we are meeting those challenges together as a family. We are inventive and innovative. We often spend long hours on crackling Skype internet lines, but we always persist until we reach a solution. And I think that's where our strength lies. So I don't know if you can read all our cards from the back there, so I'd like to extend a very personal gratitude to all of our friends who are joining us today. We have Inas from Unicef Cairo. We have Chinara from Kyrgyzstan. We have Iseka, who is from University of Bamako in Mali. We have Jamshed from Unicef Tajikistan. Joa from Unicef Timor-Leste. And Hien, who is from Ho Chi Minh University in Vietnam. So you can see that we have a wonderful representation from our countries. But now it's time for you to do some work. So I'm going to kick off with a question that I'm going to direct to Jamshed and Joa to begin with. And that is, what does social cohesion mean in your country, and how is your programme attempting to address this in your particular context? So this goes first of all to Jamshed.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura. And first of all, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I feel honored to be in this historic academic place. I think this is a beautiful moment for all of us to have another great opportunity for advocacy for the priority of children and for the needs of children. Maybe before I speak as UNICEF program officer, I want to tell you a story as a father, as a parent. I have two kids and a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. And I, as a parent, learn a lot from my daughter. I spend not much time with my daughter because of the weekday working days, but 2 days in the week, on weekend, I take her to the playground. And what I learned from her and what I noticed from my daughter, that she has a unique skill to connect to people. This is a unique skill which I believe comes from my efforts and my family efforts to give her holistic ECD opportunity. She experienced ECD services in her early years, and I can see how she now promotes and demonstrates her behavior to connect to people. This is not only her to connect to her peers, but this is also for me as a parent to connect to people I never met before. When we go to the playground and my daughter starts to play with another child, and I start to interact with the father or the mother of the child, that gives me a lot of thinking. How that easy link can be provided, and how that opportunity can be provided in that simple environment. So probably this is the very simple way of explanation of the model we are trying to put in UNICEF in our communities. I'm coming from the country, this is the landlocked country, where we have 20% of population representing ethnic minorities. As UNICEF in Tajikistan, we have a mandate to protect the rights of children, those most disadvantaged, those most marginalized, especially children from ethnic minorities, especially children with disabilities. And this is a priority for us to ensure that children in our country, they start their learning and development in their mother tongue. They start their learning and development in safe environment. And this is basically what we want to put in our program intervention. So we see children and ECD space as a shared space for children to meet and to greet each other. I think social cohesion for us starts with this simple greeting and meeting. When neighborhoods and people in the community, they start to know each other. They start to talk to each other. They start to collaborate to each other. So this is how we want to happen through the children. We want children to be the agents for peace, the agents for resilience. And we want them to be the focus, the center, where parents, caregivers, practitioners, and decision makers in their community, they can come together in one spot, and they can meet each other, and they will know each other, and they will cooperate with each other to achieve the goal of the community. I think that's the short answer to your question, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamshed. And I think when we spent time with our friends in Bogota, with Alejandro and friends last week, one of the phrases that stuck in my mind was that children can mobilize communities. And I think that lovely story from Jamshed beginning as a parent and a father and then extending to the programme really addresses that. Thank you, Jamshed. Joa, could I now ask you, what does social cohesion mean in Timor-Leste, and what is it about your programme that is addressing your particular context?
Thank you for the time. I'm Joan da Costa from Unicef Timor-Leste. Before I answer your question, firstly, I would like to introduce Timor-Leste first, a kind of overview. Timor-Leste is a post-conflict country, 16 years old, a lot of violence, poverty is higher, unemployment, violence in the community, in the household, in the school, and child development indicator is very bad, stunting is high, preschool enrollment is low, only 20%, and also population 0 to 8 years old account for 23%. But now, people come together, sharing experience, because before it's fighting each other between communities, now come together, share the experience, bring their children to the community preschool, which is established by Unicef work together with Minister of Education. And also, parents come together, share the experience through community parenting education, which Unicef work together with the Minister of Social Solidarity and Inclusion, which community session every 2 weeks. They come together, sharing the experience, learning together, special for parenting education, how to teach their children without violence, a kind of positive discipline. And also in the community level, Unicef work together with the Minister of Health, established mother support group, which work closely with the community to teach them how to prepare food for their children, because as you know that Timor-Leste is 47 stunting there. That's also bring communities together before they are fighting together, different ethnics, because Timor-Leste also has a 38 languages, different ethnics fight each other now, come together because of those programs, even though slow, gradually come together, sharing the experience. And also government through Minister of State Administration established in the lowest level a community called community leader, which is composed by chief of village, representative of elderly, women, and youth also. And in that community, they kind of establish local justice with local wisdom that disappeared long time ago because of colonization and occupation of Indonesia at that time. If you do something or you do violence, fighting each other between community or ethnic group, you will get a penalty with certain amount of money, and also get a penalty that you have to pay a cow. So people slowly getting together, living in the harmony, even though it takes time, but to create a space for children to learn. That's all I think that my understanding about the social cohesion in the simple way. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And I think it's really difficult to sum things up in a few moments, but Timor-Leste, I think, is one of those great examples where bringing community together to bring about change actually helps to build trust vertically then with government and so on, which is much needed in that context. Now, our next question is directed at Inas and at Hien. And I think sometimes we struggle to persuade those in power to do things a little bit differently and to think about things differently. So my question, first of all, to you, Inas, is what is your strategy in terms of engaging government and other stakeholders in engaging on the topic of early child development and social cohesion?
Thank you, Laura. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me first to give you a snapshot about the situation in Egypt. Egypt is one of the most populated countries in Africa. We are quickly approaching 100 million, and we are growing with a rate of 2.1% annually. So population growth is a real challenge in Egypt. And despite the significant achievements that the government has made in interventions for early childhood development, a lot more needs to be done. Taking into consideration that 53% of our children under 5 do not have access to any form of organized early childhood and care education. Services in ECD are still fragmented, and the quality varies from one place to the others, thus leading to inequalities. And generally, there is a lack of awareness on the importance of early childhood development for the children and for the community in general. We have worked on a series of consultations with different stakeholders discussing the challenges and opportunities in place. And the results showed that business as usual is no more able to help the country to realize its objectives. And we need to change and find new ways of doing things. And as a result, the home-based nursery model, that's a new model that the government has adopted to pilot currently in partnership with Queens to be ready for scaling up at a later stage. This model is simply about women, individual women in their homes establishing nurseries. And they are supported by the surrounding the community, the local community surrounding them, the community development associations, the NGOs, and of course the government should be working with all those stakeholders and the private sector to support this and to create an enabling environment for quality services to be provided for all children, particularly those disadvantaged. This, in fact, shared responsibility or co-responsibility model for nurseries in Egypt requires trust, respect, transparency, and inclusiveness among all different stakeholders that are involved. So our strategy in order to support this initiative and this project are two main things. First, capacity building for all the different stakeholders, because most of them will start playing new roles that they have not played before. And there is a lot of awareness on the importance of ECD and parenting and nurturing care that is required, in addition to building skills and enhancing skills for the different stakeholders to perform as required. And secondly, which is equally important, is looking at the structures and the quality of relationships between all the different stakeholders. How is this? We need to build those relationships and to help the mothers to be able to, or the women to be able to start businesses and become socially and economically empowered, to have policies, strategies, and bylaws in place that enables NGOs and CDAs to play a role. We need quality standards to ensure the quality of the services and safety of children. So there is coordination mechanisms in place, how all these stakeholders are going to work together, what are the channels of communication between them, what are the accountability systems that needs to be in place, and how this can be done with transparency and with respect and with trust. So for a better quality life for children and a better quality life for communities by raising new job opportunities for women and a stimulating, safe, protective environment for children.
Thank you so much, Ines, and I think it's also worth noting that in this first phase of contracting, there are about 150 of these home-based nursery settings. So the down payment on better futures for families is considerable. Now, we're going to move on to Hien for a Vietnamese perspective on how you engage with government and stakeholders.
Yes, hello everyone. You know that Vietnam is a very, very centralized country. So everything decided by our governments. We have very top-down approach. So any organization, Unicef or as an NGO, international body, who want to start a project in Vietnam, the first thing they need to get is the support from government. It is very difficult, but fortunately not impossible. So in terms of our integrated ECD, so we got very strong support from our governments. First, because we need to understand, we need to acknowledge what our government have done so far for ECD. So we know that they have already got a decades-long program on about nutrition, breastfeeding, and also vaccination for young children. So we need to show that our project, ECD, is built on their achievement and also bring forward their policy and what they have done for children. So we also try to persuade our top policymaker by the evidence produced by Harvard and Yale. And we literally brought from Belfast meeting evidence given to us by Professor James Lakeman, and the evidence scientific was so strong, short, but strong enough to persuade top government officer. And then we need to persuade them that we will not cause more extra work more burden for their busy schedule, because you know that we government of developing country like our country, and also with big population to care about, to feed, to find job. Like we have population over 97 millions. So we need to show that our project is very time efficient and not money consuming. So we don't need money for building infrastructure for the project. We just offer them. We have bought a program, adapt a parenting program from very successful practice and bring to Vietnam. And that's why we could persuade and got very strong support from our government.
Thank you so much. And do you feel that if these steps are successful, that there is a very important impact for social cohesion from your work?
Yes, of course, because in terms of social cohesion, Vietnam have persistence problem issue that lasts for centuries, and also we have new issue of social cohesion emerged from our recent change in socio-political life. You know that 3 decades ago we shift from purely socialistic to market-oriented economy, and the shift brought very significant, I can say that surprising, dramatic success for economic, and we sharply cut poverty rate in Vietnam and improve living standard life for everyone. But with the change, the gap between regions, between ethnic groups, and the gap between poor and rich also widened a lot. And that's why we think that with the project we start from the most disadvantaged group of ethnic people. So it will help the government to lessen the gap between regions, between ethnic groups in Vietnam, and it's one thing to address the gap between different era and different group of people. And also we try to improve the trust between every member of the society to local governments and to state governments through the parenting program. And also we try to promote engagement and involvement and social relation of the most disadvantaged and the most isolated population of Vietnam is in very remote rural area in highly far away and mountainous area of Vietnam by attract and by taking them to common parenting group. And we hope that through the parenting is not only parenting group for the people, but through the share of common concern about how to bring up children, they will share another issue in their social life and common life. And this way we try to build, to enhance social relation and trust between people in our country.
Thank you so much, Ian. What a comprehensive answer. And if we could actually spend a day with this panel easily. So thank you so much for your thoughts. It's one thing to dream how we might do things or to imagine what our work might look like. And one of the things that we all aspire to is building a bank of high quality evidence. But in order to do that, we have to do the research first. So I'd now like to turn to Kyrgyzstan and Mali to explore what might be some of the practical issues and barriers around doing research on ECD and social cohesion in your country. So first of all, Chinara, could I ask you, what are the practical issues or difficulties around conducting this kind of research in your country?
Thank you, Laura. Salamat ви, ayımdar, jana mırzalar. It's in Kyrgyz. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me share with our experience related to this question. And first I would like to say that traditionally in Kyrgyzstan, mothers more involved in the child caring than fathers. That's a big problem, let's say, and one of the teachers, when we started our project and met with our beneficiaries, she told us that whenever she conducted parents' meeting, just mothers or grandmothers had come for that meeting, and it's too difficult to involve fathers because of traditional, as I told. And before this research, we conducted focus group discussion among parents, teachers, and children. And this discussion showed that fathers not involved because they was not come to that discussions, and the results also show that conflicts are happening in the family and the community due to gender or ethnicity differences. And as we all know that early years are formative years of life, education in early years, and both in family, inside of family, and outside of family, with a relationship with the community, are critically powerful to promote resilience, peace building, peace and social cohesion. That's why within our intervention part, we strengthening the involvement of fathers and promoting peace building among community members through capacity building of teachers to conduct parents meeting, where we want to invite more fathers along with mothers too, and build their capacity toward to non-discrimination based on gender or ethnicity. And within our intervention, we adapt early years consortium intervention to Kyrgyzstan. And taking this opportunity, I would like to say thank you very much for that experience. And within our intervention, we also cross the challenges when the government don't believe us that it's very important to promote peace building and ECD programs. And we hope that this research, the funding of this research, will give us the evidence base which we can show to the donors, to the government, both level, national and the local level, to promote peace building and ECD programs. And I want to say also that role of teachers in this process are very, very important. And we saw that teachers has to change first, because in our community, in our society, the discriminated social norms are very high and very strong, and we want to change the social norm towards non-discrimination. And through our training, we want our teachers change first they should not discriminate children in classroom based on gender or ethnicity. And we hope that this research will help us to promote peace building or social cohesion through ECD programs. Thank you.
Thank you again so much, Inara, for that. And now we're going to turn to Isaka Zagara from the University of Bamako. What are your thoughts around the practical challenges we face in terms of carrying out our research?
Thank you very much, Laura. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Isaka Sagara from University of Bamako, Mali. Bamako, the capital of Mali, of course. I'm saying that because some were asking if Tombouctou is actually the capital of Mali. So meaning that some people knows Mali, Tombouctou. So Tombouctou is, of course, part of Mali, known centuries back, is an important trade place. So that being said, before answering your question, just to tell you in terms of background of the issue you were raising for research, let me tell you about the background situation related to that will clearly help the context of answer. Saying that Mali these last 7 to 5 years back, we are actually experiencing a security issue, started from the north part of Mali. As you may know, terrorists, particularly outside the country of, mainly outside the country of Mali, came from the north of Mali, and from there, very armed, heavily armed at that time particularly, and that really put Mali in a heavy security situation issue, particularly in the north part of Mali. And these terrorists came from the north of Mali. Of course, they had link from some local communities there, and from there, some had unfortunately moved, had chance again move to the got connection up to the centers of Mali, and created therefore also kind of ethnic group conflict. That's the story. Of course, as you may know, situation is being improving with the help of, I have to say, national units who are really, community and international communities who are helping Mali on that matter. The situation is improving, I have to say, but just to give you the background of the situation, that will help the answer that I will be giving from university side involved in actually conducting research on ECD and peace building. So you clearly now understand that the issue that we can talk about actually carrying out research on ECD and peace building is clearly access to some areas where really the studies are more relevant. So from the perspective, seeing that, and also, as you know, we design a study, then in a way, with the help of KINS and other partners, to actually make a way so that we design a study in a way that we can also include in the study the communities who are also concerned with this security issue. So, as well as, although we included communities who are involved with conflict, we're talking about also conflict for people who are directly concerned. If you ask them questions directly, is not an easy task since you are asking between ethnic groups who are directly involved. But nevertheless, in designing actually the protocol, and not only but the procedures and consenting and all the process really to before data collection and involvement of the local community. So we made a design and approach so that we will be really carrying out the study so that we can have really result to ensure the question related to actually the ECD and the peace building, which project really with Kin University is very important for Mali, and we think that with UNICEF this project is very relevant, and from university side we are really very excited to be involved in this project, and hopefully in the coming months we will be seeing results that we will be collecting from this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isaka, and I have to say it's been a pleasure to work with you and to visit Mali and to realise that Mali, the potential scale in terms of the area to be covered. So we hope that over time, with good evidence, Mama Yellen can spread her good work around Mali. Now, I think we have a few minutes for some questions. I'll wait for Shemra to pull me off the stage. So do we have a microphone if anybody would like to ask? We have a lady here who'd like to ask a question, please. I get to enjoy these nice pictures now as well. Beautiful. So we have a lady down here. So if you would say who you are and where you're from and we can hopefully answer your question.
Hello, my name is Ayşe Kaskan. I'm originally from Turkey. Currently I'm working here at Yale University in cancer research. But So I have two questions. First of all, I love the way you structure the panel and all the questions, because I wrote down 5-6 questions, but they were answered one after another. But like each speaker, it was one of the most beautiful panel I've seen. So, and my questions actually, one of them, I assume you have a kind of standard program for all these countries, but seeing the diversity, like all those different places, I assume you have some level of flexibility so you can adapt the cultural norms of the local places. And if somehow your program conflicts with cultural norms, how do you approach? And if you have, or any of the speakers have any example of such issues? Mm-hmm. And second question is, somewhat actually Chinara answered the question in terms of her country, that obviously financial means are very important, government support is very important, but human element is very important. So how do you train the trainers or like caregivers, particularly for instance, if it is a home setting and it is volunteer based, how do you actually train the trainers, or do you? Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'll start off and then I can think of many examples from our panel. Thank you for your question. We're extremely fortunate in that the infrastructure of this work means that from the very beginning, we engage, of course, with our Unicef family in all of our countries, and they provide they're fantastic gatekeepers. They can tell us who we need to speak to, engage us with ministries and so on. The other thing that we did was we engaged a research team within each country from each country. And these guys represent, so for example, in terms of University of Bamako or Ho Chi Minh University, we have an academic lead institution in every country. We start off with our country visit, where myself, Sarah and Paul, along with our colleagues from early years, do a country visit. Now, early years have a huge experience over many, many years of adapting programs to country-specific needs and challenges. So we start off with a pretty good team who can help us to highlight various issues. But I can think, for example, in terms of Timor-Leste, where the community input has been absolutely vital. So we've got that structure to begin with, we've got the engagement with the country, before we ever try to design our research plan or indeed implement any sort of programmatic work. But I wonder, would anybody on the panel like to contribute an example? Now, I know we've already talked about father involvement as a potential issue. Would anybody like to offer an example from their own setting, or indeed Sarah, Paul? Well, in terms of, for example, in Timor-Leste, the community buy-in and input has been very important in allowing the research to go ahead. Would that be correct, Joa?
Yeah. For Timor-Leste, for instance, if you want to do the research, there is a mechanism already exists. We always coordinate with the Statistic Office, in which they have a link down to the community level. They identify already enumerators there. Whenever they have trained already, whenever they do their research, they coordinate with the lower level. Also include Ministry of State Administration, in which they have a structure down to the village level. So when you conduct the research, you inform to the minister, they will sign the letter. You bring that letter down at the community level, they will allow you, accompany you to do the research or collect the information in the household level.
Thank you so much. Paul, you have something to contribute?
Yes, just a very quick point, and building on what you've said, Laura, I think in terms of the question, it's very important to stress that we don't have a programme that we want to impart or deliver in countries. It's very much about each country with their existing ECD programmes and priorities and needs, working together on the ground to decide what they want. And our expertise is to try to help support the research around that, that informs the design and the evaluation of the programmes, and to use expertise from our experts globally, but also from each country, to support one another to look at, well, how can we tweak those programmes so that they also have a social cohesion focus. So it's just very important to stress that there isn't a programme that we're selling or we're developing. If this works, it has to work in the sense that it can be applied and built through any ECD service or programme.
Okay, I think we have time for another question. The microphone's just back, and then we can take one quick question at the front. Is that okay?
Yes. Hello, thank you. My name is Ana Zariva-Valente. I'm Peacebuilding Specialist at Unicef headquarters in New York. Very much thank you for the panel and for the presentation. I've learned a lot. Listening to all of you and looking at the theory of change that you have presented, I was struck by maybe an overlap or like a very interesting coincidence. So the parents, the caregivers, that cohort that you're talking about, and the parent kind of their caregiver outcomes, to me that group of people also seems to coincide very heavily with what others call youth, so-called young people, and the whole policy panics that exist out there around, you know, the engagement of young people in violence and dissatisfaction with life and the lack of their participation. So these kind of issues. So it seems to me that by doing this work, you're also capturing this very important demographic in different ways, in ways that really matter to them, to, you know, so because your theories of change and your programs are structured to look not only at child-related outcomes, but also at caretaker-related outcomes, I'm curious to see your reflections. What are you learning about this demographic, the, you know, the kind of, what are you beginning to see, and how can we leverage this part of work also? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and you're right, each context is different, each program is different, and we are just at the stage now where we're conducting pilot work in our settings. So stay tuned, we will have more to tell you, and I think it's going to be so lovely to be able to pick out the nuance of what works where. So as Paul said, it's not one size fits all at all. We do hope in the next year, 18 months, that we will be having a couple of big conferences. We've yet to confirm the venues, but we will be sharing, of course, our findings back with our countries, with Unicef, and in some bigger conference settings. So we'll hopefully be welcoming all of you back to hear more about what we found. So I've gotten the eye from Shemra, and I've gotten a tap from Jim. So I'm afraid, I know we have a question left, but we can talk to you directly. And just to finish off, there's a saying in Irish, Ní Neart Curla Céile, and it means that we are strongest when we work together. And I really feel in my heart that this is what this whole community, particularly our friends on the stage and the teams that they represent, are helping us to do. Thank you so much for your time.